We stopped at Elanetsui with salvage materials. If you get a chance to see these are really elegant and beautiful. Okay, so we're going to get into 3D work. Now we kind of are in 3D work here, but this is sort of in between 2D, 3D. So it's a flat piece that hangs on the wall. It's kind of in its own category, but there are three-dimensional pieces. All right, so we're going to go into methods of media and three-dimensional art. Now, she doesn't cover this, Lazari doesn't cover this in a really great detail, but you are going to need to know this for chapter 15 because you're going to go out and you're going to look at some sculpture. And I'm a sculptor, so I'm a little bit biased. I'm going to speak up for it a little bit more here. So there's traditional and new material. There's freestanding sculpture. That's what we're looking at right here. There's relief sculpture, site-specific, and kinetic. Kinetic means moving. So freestanding sculptures are objects that meant to be seen from all sides. So all the stuff on El Paseo, every single last thing you see on El Paseo is freestanding. You guys are going to think that it's installation or some other thing, but it is only freestanding. If you can walk all the way around it, that's what that is. This is a high relief carving. So this is covering two things. Relief, which is basically out of one flat plane that carved deeply into it. It's still kind of got a flatness to it, if you understand that. So this stone was flat here. This is the extent of the stone. And then they carved deeper into there and deep into there and not so deeply up here, if that makes sense. So the sculpture is only seen from the front. These are usually on walls, religious temples, that kind of thing, like an existing architectural piece. Sometimes there's exceptions to that, but for the most part, a relief is like a flat wall piece that's part of the wall. So this is in part of the temple sandstone. It's carved into the sandstone. These are site-specific sculptures from Richard Serra. These are really amazing. These are giant, thick pieces of metal. I think they're 2 inches thick, 3 inches thick. They're amazing, and you can kind of walk into them and walk through them. And the idea is that you're marking time as you walk through them. And they're very contemplative. You go inside, and you really have this funny sense of space and kind of like being in a deep canyon or something. They're really beautiful. So it's site specific. Now, these have been moved around and shown in other places, but they're arranged differently. This original one here was for Bilbao, Spain, so they fit in this this hallway or this gallery in a particular way. Kinetic work. This is work that moves. Now, of course, we're not seeing how it's moving right here. Calder, if you see Calder 99% of the time, it is a piece that moves, okay? So up here, there's like a swivel point, and the wind catches these things, and they move around. This part holds still, and this part moves, okay? Kinetic. Carving, this is kind of what I was talking about with the relief carving. This is a little beyond relief. It's just a heavily carved piece. We could still call this relief. This is more typical of relief over here, if you look over here. So there's high relief and low relief, but at any rate, carving is always subtractive. You take away material and it doesn't go back. Modeling is pushing and pulling. It's subtractive and adding. So you're kind of, mushing stuff around. This is a nice terracotta little piece. And it says plaster too. I think that's right there. I think it's repaired with plaster. I don't think it was originally made with plaster. So this was kind of pinched and modeled and so on. But that mouth might have been carved out, and then maybe this area here, but it's mushed with your fingers, so that's called modeling, okay? It's called additive, but it's both. It's additive and subtractive. Clay, and this is one of those wild pieces of clay that is ceramic, but it's made to look like leather. Clay can look like anything. That's why it's a really exciting material. So you can have a high degree of control. That's what she's saying. This is a trompe l'oeil piece, meaning fool the eye, because it looks like a leather bag and it's actually very heavy and it's made out of clay. I don't know about the board. I never did look at this. I've known about this piece for 30 years and I've never bothered to look and see if that wood, the piece of wood, is also clay. All right, so functional ceramics, slightly different topic. This is sculptural ceramics. This is functional ceramics. So was our other little piece here. This is a sculpture. Don't know which one came first. in the history of human development. That's still an open question. This is Maria Martinez. She's out of San Ildefonso Pueblo in New Mexico, not far from where I live. She passed away some time ago. She lived until her 90s. But she does these highly polished, you can kind of see that reflection down here, highly polished blackware. And then she goes back and her son or her husband would paint these traditional designs on them. They are functional in theory, but these were highly sought after and they were worth thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, so no one used them after a certain while. And these are coil built. Okay, modeled sculpture, we're thinking in a bigger way here right now because when something's cast in bronze, it isn't direct. So you almost never, except when you're connecting the parts like the arm might have been connected, you weld it. But all the stuff you see here, all this beautiful detail, that is done in wax or clay, usually wax. Okay, you use the Sir-Perdue process, which is lost wax casting method. You make this beautiful sculpture out of wax. You put plaster around it. You soak it, or well, it's hard to explain. You cover it in plaster. You put it in a kiln. You burn the wax out. Then you flip it over, and then you pour the bronze in. So it's modeled, but it's a indirect process. Okay. So lost wax again, but it's expensive. It's difficult. A lot of people have to do it together. It's not a solo activity, so it is pricey. Okay.